The 2022 Utility Scale Solar Project of the Year, as voted by the readers of Solar Builder, is the Mililani Solar One plant on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. This 39 megawatt solar plant with a 156 megawatt hour battery is the first utility scale solar plus storage project on the island, and one that was desperately needed to support the grid as an aging coal plant is finally retired. Here to tell us about it is Nicola Park, Origination Manager with Clearway Energy Group, and Josh Myers, Vice President of Hawaii Energy with Moss. Hey, Nicola, thanks for taking the time. Before we get into the project, could you tell me a little bit more about Clearway itself, your presence in Hawaii and just across the country?
Clearway currently operates 149 megawatts on the Oahu grid currently, with more to come. And we certainly have an exciting development pipeline ahead of us. Today, Clearway is the sixth largest renewable energy developer and operator in the country, with 8 gigawatts of energy assets. So it's a 5.6 gigawatt portfolio of wind and solar and energy storage. But Hawaii has been a really important market to us and will be, for decades to come.
This one stood out for a couple of reasons, and I'm glad our readers chose it. As I mentioned, this is the first utility scale solar plus battery storage project on the island. And this project was especially important because it was needed for the island to officially close out that last coal plant. So before we get into the project nuances, I was hoping you could provide that context of the situation on Oahu kind of currently as it transitions off of fossil fuels.
Hawaii is on a mission to achieve its state mandate of 100% renewables by 2045. And Hawaiian Electric is on track to hit its interim goal of 40% renewables by 2030. So on Oahu, we're at about 33%.
Primarily Moss has been focused in the utility scale, but certainly there's a growing need and a growing understanding by HECO and the PUC for community-based solar, and specifically, the CBRE program in Hawaii, which is taking off. So there's a lot of activity there, and generally, I think there's a really good path forward on Oahu and the outer islands. Common mission, which is a really neat thing to be a part of, between the Public Utilities Commission, between HECO, the utilities, and obviously the outer island utilities as well. People are really focused on the reality of 100% renewable by 2045.
The challenge has really been that all of the other solar plus storage projects that the utility has procured through the last 2 rounds of RFPs have been delayed due to COVID, supply chain disruptions, inflationary pressures that we've all been experiencing in the industry and across the country. So for Oahu, that was particularly concerning due to the expectation of more renewables on the system before the decommissioning of the 180 megawatt coal plant by September 1st. So that's really why Mililani One being able to accelerate its schedule and come online in July, a full month before the decommissioning of the coal plant, was so critical, really when the island was facing a reliability crunch. So Clearway is really proud to be part of Hawaii's transition to 100% renewables.
Can you maybe walk me through some of the challenges as they came up, and maybe any decisions that stand out to you in your memory of kind of like how you adjusted or were able to maintain or even speed up the timeline as things went along?
The first key decision point was really when the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission and the Hawaii State Energy Office called on industry and Hawaiian Electric and stakeholders to propose solutions to this, impending reliability crunch on Oahu. And at that point, Clearway, in partnership with Moss and our suppliers, really dug deep on the analysis on ways to accelerate the project schedule. And a lot of the solutions, did require direct cooperation of Hawaiian Electric to support improvements in the commissioning process or relief on the duration between milestone events and that type of cooperation on the amendment. So we did execute a price and schedule amendment to the PPA with Hawaiian Electric. We got the prompt support of the commission. And then we began to incur, reasonable costs and take some reasonable risks in terms of accelerating equipment deliveries or planning for equipment contingencies in partnership with Moss and our suppliers, including Nextracker, JA Solar, Wärtsilä, Power Electronics.
And then on Moss's end, what were some of the challenges you had kind of on the ground executing all of this to keep it online and on that timeline?
Obviously, being on an island, supply chain challenges are sometimes out of our control, out of the developer's control. We're beholden to the overall supply chain, and we feel the effects when there's supply chain crises. And there were multiple challenges, just like everyone experienced. We did have delays, specifically on the modules, and It was just a matter of us sequencing and phasing the work in a way where as soon as we had modules ready to install, we had teams of people ready to install them, try to get as much predictability as into when the boats were coming, right? Trying to get things off the docks as soon as they arrived, and just being proactive about trying to stay in front from a construction sequencing perspective.
How much of that coal plant that we've been referencing, how much of the gap of that retiring does this one project fill?
In some ways, it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, right? To compare the coal plant to solar plus storage. The coal plant produced 180 megawatts 24/7. The facility, Mililani 1, is 39 megawatts, so it's about a quarter of the capacity. However, as a solar plus storage project, it offers a lot of grid benefits and services in terms of flexibility to respond to the grid that the coal plant wasn't capable of providing. So the project creates enough power to support 13,000 homes. And the carbon emissions difference is really notable, right? Where this facility produces zero carbon emissions, not to mention all the environmental and health benefits due to improved air quality from not burning coal.
And I read that this project offers the lowest price per kilowatt hour among Oahu renewable energy projects that are currently under development or awaiting regulatory approval.
It's really exciting because the price is a third of the cost of fossil fuels on island. So we're also providing long-term fixed pricing for 20 years versus all the volatility we've been seeing in the fossil fuel markets that customers were otherwise exposed to.
Josh, does anything else stand out on Moss's side of things that you've found to be particularly notable about the actual construction of this project?
Oh, halfway through construction, Nextracker let us know, and we let Clearway know, and we let HECO know, you know what? We may not get these power supplies in time to power the tracker to actually meet commercial operation. So we spent about a month really looking at what can we do here? What are the workarounds? Can we send out the power supplies, get those installed, fly the chips in later as soon as they're manufactured, install them in the field, do a field UL certification. And as we're going through this process, which was pretty rapid, we all, the Nextracker, Moss, Clearway, came to the conclusion that, you know what, it's too risky. So we got very creative and we worked with Nextracker, and they were actually able to modify the design on the fly to take auxiliary panels, which are different than parasitic high voltage power supply. Take that from a completely different product, design new parts, get them certified, find those parts all across the world, fly them out here, and get those installed. Clearway was in lockstep with us, working with the independent engineers and their engineering team to come up with a solution, and it happened over a course of about 5 weeks. A real team effort to pull it off. And I think that was one of the bigger, best success stories that I've been a part of.
So the battery is obviously a huge, important component of this project. Can you maybe tell me a little bit more about the battery itself? Why did you go with Fort Scylla and decide to match 156 megawatt hours of storage with that 39 megawatts of PV?
Yeah, Wärtsilä has been such a great partner throughout, the design and integration of the battery with the PV. They were well positioned, well priced to meet the needs of the project and really to perform in Hawaii specifically, in a unique market. The battery is 156 megawatt hours, which is 4 times the full capacity of the PV. And in order to provide that full 4 hours of load shifting capacity for the entire project. So it's what allows the project to provide 39 megawatts of solar energy in the evening peak, after the sun goes down and between 5 to 9, which is really when Oahu's customers need it most, when the grid needs it most.
Nicola, Josh, thanks for taking the time, and congrats on winning the Utility Scale Project of the Year award for 2022.
Thank you. We're really proud to accept the award, and it's certainly an honor. And thanks to Hawaiian Electric and Moss and all of our suppliers and key partners and the Clearway team. We have an incredible team at Clearway that made it happen.